This was a message that I got off somebody. He said that he's 22 and the only reason he drinks is because of his shyness and anxiety in these big social situations. He hates alcohol but needs to have a few beers, otherwise he feels awkward. And how can he get out of it? Now, I love this on the one side, right? I wish at 22 that I'd start questioning this stuff. I wish I'd had that feeling of hating alcohol when I was 22, right? I wish I'd looked at myself in that way in my life. So first of all, I'll say, that you're on the right track, my friend. One of the biggest problems in the beginning is just seeing alcohol for what it is, a neurotoxin, which means it's going to fuck around with your brain. It's an addictive drug, a drug that you've been manipulated by predatory alcohol marketing to put into your body, and convinced, by the way, that it's a perfectly normal thing, that it's a perfectly sane thing for any human being to do in the first part of the 21st century. And even the quit drinking alcohol industry is predatory, by the way, from many different angles. It's a huge business and it's so expensive. Taking all this into account, why is this something that anyone in the right mind would put into their body? We go back to media manipulation, right? So think about it from that perspective, first of all. Like I said, you're on the right track. I get that it's a coping mechanism. I spent way too many years thinking the same thing, but really there's a heavy downside to this. And, there's not much to say about this in terms of a coping mechanism anyway. You get better results by hitting yourself over the head with a hammer. And I'm not suggesting that that's something that you should do. But there's plenty of other much healthier ways of coping with life without compromising your health in such a way, right? That are likely to help your mind in the long term. So anyway, if you're getting help out of these videos, you can help us in return by hitting the subscribe button and liking the video. Thank you very much for all the subscribers that have already taken that small task to hand. It means a lot to us. I know exactly where you're coming from. One of the biggest reasons why I started drinking in the first place was because I just was very shy, particularly in those type of social situations. I think context is important here. Again, in those situations when I was 18 or 19, in bars or parties, that kind of thing, I had no real social skills. I didn't see a way out of that. It's a common situation when you're that young, right? It's a catch-22 situation sort of a thing. And there's a couple of things to understand here. First off, social anxiety is context-based for the most part, right? Meaning that you're going to feel anxious in certain situations with certain people, maybe at certain times, in other situations with other people. Other times you're going to feel perfectly happy, or at least you're not going to feel the same levels of anxiety, right? Now, I remember when I started going to bars first, and I was terrified. Literally, I hadn't got a clue what to do, hadn't got a clue what goes on in there a little bit, It's that same thing that we all go through in those new situations, right? As a young man, the only reason I was going into bars was to meet girls, right? And I hadn't got a clue about that either. The bars were full of older blokes who knew what they were doing. At least that's how it appeared to me. And my dating game, my whole approach to this thing, to approaching women in bars, was pretty shabby and non-existent, to say the least, right? So therein lies the problem. How do you summon up enough courage as a scrawny, goofy kid to even approach someone that you think is hot, right? That's the nature of the beast. This is exactly what bars are designed to do. And if you're a young lad in a bar, the deck is always going to be stacked against you. There's always some deal in the pubs or the nightclubs that's going to try and attract, reel in all the beautiful young women. And beautiful young women are there then to bait the dorky young fellas, to to get them in the door, and the dorky young fellas are only too happy to throw their money across the counter so that they can buy alcohol to kind of inject some liquid courage into their own veins and lure a young lady to give them just the time of day, right? You know, I was good at the former and not so good at the latter. You know, I thought in my own mind after a few pints that I turned into James Bond, but in reality I turned into Beavis and Butthead or Pee Wee Herman, you know. And that's just not good for the ego. You know, it's not good for the self-image. And the worst thing is, unless you give up drinking as a bad idea, there and then you persist in this delusional thinking, and you never learn how to deal with these situations without that magic potion, right? So look, we don't offer dating advice on this channel, how to be a pickup artist, but I can offer you a beginner's program if you want to get help getting sober. So, you know, it's going to help you a lot with the early mindset changes that you need to go through. It'll help you a lot with how to survive those first few weeks of sobriety. The link's in the description below. Now, the second thing to understand about social anxiety is that it's normal. It's a natural response. You know, when you're introduced to new or stressful situations, you know, of course, not everyone feels the same things in the same situations, but big social situations can be stressful to you, right? And the more you need alcohol to deal with these social situations, the more stressful these situations are really going to appear without alcohol. And there's plenty of other social situations where I was with my family, for instance, or with good friends, or with somebody in my home, where I didn't feel anywhere near the same levels of shyness or anxiety. So, like I said, context is everything. And this is the crucial detail when you're trying to figure out how to manage or how to overcome any of the anxious feelings you've got. You know, you have to understand the context that you're in. You know, you got to understand when you're getting these anxiety feelings, who are you with, what situations are you in at that moment, why are you there, what's your motivation for being there, what are you hoping to get out of it. And also, I think you need to understand in what social situations these anxiety feelings are not happening. You know, what's different, who's different in those situations. So think about those things. Yeah, I think that's it for this video, but if you want to hear more about this particular topic, let me know in the comments. To end today, just think seriously about the alternatives to alcohol. You know, it's not doing you any favors at all. I'm glad that you hate the stuff. I'm really happy that you want to get it out of your life, and that's the best mentality that you can have. You know, most of the stress we feel at these events is not real in the outside world. It's only how you're responding to these things on the inside. So the event is not the problem, right? It's how you're reacting. That's the problem. And the only way to really get used to being at these events without alcohol is to go to these events and absolutely refuse to drink. You might feel ill at ease with yourself in the moment, but I guarantee that each one will be a small victory that makes it easier and easier for you at the next event and the next event and the next event that follows. So I hope it works out for you. Another alternative is just not to go to these things, which I choose to do at the moment, you know. So take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you soon. Onwards and upwards. Bye now.